The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to this morning's Helpline with your host, James McDonald.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea, and I'd like to start by welcoming our participants to our Monday morning helpline. And this, of course, is our open Q&A. We can discuss anything that's on your mind, anything you like. We can talk about any of the ads that you're running maybe over the weekend, or lead conversion. We can talk about or continue our discussion from Friday in regards to some of the USPs that you might be now considering implementing into your presentations, etc. But the sky's the limit. Now, we are going to have Craig join us here shortly. And he'll also weigh in on any of your questions. But I do really have to encourage you. We can talk about anything you like here today, but there is no set agenda. So you determine what it is we're going to discuss through your questions and your topics of discussion. Now, I also I was about to say one last time, but it probably won't be the last time I mention this, but we do have our boot camp, as Andrea is displaying here, coming up in Huntington Beach, our coaching members only boot camp on the 26th at the Hyatt. Please reserve your seat if you haven't done so already. I think 99% of you have, but if you haven't done that yet, it's really time now. We need to know that you will be attending, and that way we can be prepared for you. But it is going to be an awesome day, as I've talked about at length on previous calls. You do not want to miss spending the day working on your business in much more detail. So having said that, one last thing that I had to mention as well, Andrea, and that is any ads that you are running, please make sure that in addition to emailing them to your coach, you also upload them to the Ad Clinic session as well. So on Friday, we can look at some ads. You know, last Friday we talked about all of the various unique selling propositions to be implemented into your presentations, but we want to make sure that we also look at some of the ads that you're running as well. So the marketing clinic is sort of a combination of all of that. But we do need to see your ads. I know you're running them, and it isn't just the ads that are underperforming, it's also the ads that are performing. The ads that are performing, we want to test against those ads, and we want to cause them to perform even better, higher quality prospects, more prospects. So make sure you do that, and then on Friday we'll have a great session. Okay, so having said that, Andrea, why don't we do this? Let's take as many questions as time permits, and you can get that started for us now.
I'm so sorry about the delay, James. I'm on the other end of the line with Craig trying to get onto the webinar. I apologize that I didn't come right away. Are you ready to go to questions?
Yeah,
did I hear correctly? Okay. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and type in the chat box any questions you may have, or if you have a working mic or the telephone, you can click the hand icon and we can take audio questions. We have Joe asking, any suggestions on how to market individual listings?
Well, obviously there are lots of ways that you can market your individual listings for sure. You know, signage is one thing where we can really set ourselves apart in our signage. We can make sure that we're making it easy and non-threatening for prospects to get information on the property. But you know, I got to be honest with you, this really falls into what we discussed on Friday, which is the reality that the very best way that you can market a property is by making sure that the property is priced effectively from the very beginning. If a property is priced effectively, the likeliness of it selling, and your job involving negotiating the best offer, you know, becomes very likely. But the question is, I'm not talking about underpricing properties. What we're talking about is how do we effectively compel our sellers to price their properties effectively, because it's in their best interest to do that, and it's certainly in ours and everybody else's. And the answer is you need to give them a reason why they would listen to you when it comes to discussing pricing. And that's what we talked about on Friday. By having a series of unique selling propositions, statistical services that you offer, and especially performance guarantees, what you're doing is establishing yourself as the expert. And when it comes to pricing, people are far more likely to listen to the advice of an expert. On the other hand, if you're perceived as a salesperson, well, you know, people tend not to listen to the advice of a salesperson, and that's when you're taking overpriced listings and then talking about what is the magic formula for me selling my overpriced listing. and that's a completely different discussion. So do bear that in mind, and it is complicated, but I would suggest this is that you need to make sure that you're using hotline technology in your advertising. All right, whether we're talking about signage, making it easy for more and more buyers to raise their hand on your property listings. If we can make it easy for 10 times the number of buyers to respond to a property ad or a sign, obviously you're increasing the odds of finding a buyer for that property. So these are obviously things that you should be doing by now if you're not, and certainly a really good line of discussion with your coach as well. Okay, that's
James
really
McDonald.
good. Hey, Mr. Craig Proctor, how are you doing?
How you doing? Good.
Excellent.
Sorry, I had a little trouble getting on here this morning. I apologize for my tardiness.
Well, it is your first time, so we expect that. I was kidding.
Well, there was an upgrade apparently to go to webinar, so I had a bit of problems with that. But anyway,
well, there you go. You're here now.
So
We're happy to have
do
you.
some questions.
Yeah, who's next, Andrea?
Well, and I wanted to mention we don't have very many, and I wanted to make sure everybody knows to ask a question. All you have to do is type in the bottom of your control panel, just type your question, or if you're on a mic or a telephone, just click the hand icon and we can go to your audio question. We'll first go to another hand raised. Elizabeth Kennedy, your mic is open.
Good morning, James and Craig.
Good morning.
Hello,
Morning.
Elizabeth.
Hi. I've got an objection. I just don't know how to answer, and I've lost 2 prospects because of it.
All right, lay it on me.
Okay, lay it on you. Okay. Well, it came back, and they said they're not going to buy or because of the water issue here in California.
So what does the water issue have to do with buying?
The drought, the cost, because the news is actually getting all the way to Wisconsin. I lost a prospect from Wisconsin who was going to buy here. He's now going to Arizona instead. And he said,
everyone knows they've got a lot more water in the desert.
Yeah, no,
but also,
that's brilliant.
we're the first ones here in the desert. That's where I'm calling from, Lakita. And we're the first ones to get 36 back. We have to cut back 36%. And if we don't do that by July 1st, we will be fined up to $500.
Okay,
go ahead, James.
Well, what I was going to say is this, please remember, you're not trying to create motivation where motivation doesn't exist. On your MLS last month, were there transactions? Answer is yes. That means people are buying and selling real estate right in your marketplace right now. You're not causing them to do it. They're doing it no matter what. They're buying and selling real estate. We're not trying to take people from Wisconsin and trying to motivate them into buying property in La Quinta. We're not doing that, because you can't motivate someone to do something that they don't want to do. So whether the issue is water or whatever it is, what we're trying to do is get on and off the phone with our prospects, determine their timing and level of motivation, and you're going to work with the good ones that are going to represent those transactions in the marketplace that are absolutely and definitively happening every single month. People are buying and selling in La Quinta right now in your marketplace. All we need to do is run effective ads to find them. So change your mindset a little bit with this. We're not convincing people that there isn't a water shortage, or trying to take someone that has no interest in buying and telling them that there's so much water we're drowning. That's not the objective here. And, maybe you shouldn't fight it.
Okay, well, what it was, he was a great prospect until that happened. So anyway, I thought he was.
Well, listen, the truth is, Elizabeth, you can't do anything about this situation, right?
No,
this is not something that you can solve. So it doesn't sound like this particular prospect was really super motivated to move into your area if they're going to let this become a problem. It'd be like me trying to handle this. So Elizabeth, you moved to Toronto, or you're looking in Toronto, and you come here for the very first time, and you realize it's very flat and there are no mountains, and you like mountains. There's nothing I can do to create mountains in Toronto, right? So,
right.
But if you really wanted to move to Toronto, you had a real reason for being here, a job, you've got family here, it wouldn't matter whether there are mountains or not. It wouldn't matter whether there's a water shortage, which you got to think is a temporary situation. See, the mountains are permanent. Never going to be mountains here in Toronto. The water situation in California, we have to believe it's going to be figured out, right? It's a temporary issue. So I would explain that this is a temporary issue, and if they really are motivated to move into your area, we shouldn't let a temporary issue get in the way of it.
Okay. That sounds great, Craig. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth.
Our next guest with her hand raised is Ellen Levy. Your mic is open.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Ellen.
Good morning. So I am realizing that I have an attitude problem. I am afraid that with your system, I'm going to generate so much business, I won't be able to handle it.
Well,
now,
that is not a fear. That is reality. That is actually definitely what's going to happen.
Well, I'm a perfectionist. I've been in the business a long time. I actually do a decent business, $6 million a year or so. I will also admit I'm buying a house and I have to move by the end of the month, so I'm feeling a little overwhelmed in general right now. But I would very much like to have all of my new proctorized listing materials together and my new buyer introductory materials together before I start running ads. Am I being realistic, or am I being some sort of coward here?
Okay, well, I am a fellow perfectionist. James McDonald knows that. He likes to kid around with me that I don't even like to take the plastic off of my golf clubs. So look, there's nothing, you have to learn as a perfectionist that there's absolutely nothing wrong with ready, fire, aim. Okay? You've got to find the GE spot. It's the good enough spot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You can't wait for everything to be perfect before you do something. Okay? That's something you're going to have to learn to do. So as much as I am a perfectionist in my personal life, I'm really not that so much in my business life. I have this good enough spot. People often ask me, Craig, how do you get so much done? How do you produce the newsletter? How do you coach all these people? Especially when I was running my real estate business, doing 500 to 600 transactions and doing all the coaching and seminars on the side. And my attitude was, you've got to produce things that are good enough. Now, in everything I've done, could I have made things better by bringing out the perfectionist in me? Probably. But the extra time I would have spent to make it perfect wouldn't have changed the result enough to warrant it. So I like the fact that you know yourself. I mean, it's really important that we know ourselves. Let me give you an example of this. Ellen, do you ever go to Panera Bread?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and you go to Panera Bread and you get a sandwich and you get some soup, and I get takeout, and you go home, and they also give you this really delicious roll of bread.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so when I go home, I walk through the garage, the very first thing I do is I throw that roll of bread right into the garbage can. Now, not on top of the garbage, because if I throw it on top of the garbage, just sit there in the bag, I know later today I'm going to run out and I'm going to go get that. Because I know myself, right? So I know I got to throw that right in the garbage. I'm going to eat that thing. So there's a real benefit to knowing yourself as a perfectionist. Now, once you identify that you're a perfectionist, and you say, there's good in that, but there's also bad in that. So here's what the promise we make to all of our members. If you follow what James and I, the coaches, Todd Walters, you follow what we tell you to do, that absolutely is going to happen. You're going to be overwhelmed with business. You will have too much business, which is a good thing. It solves a problem in lead generation, but it does create a new problem, which is, okay, now how am I going to handle all this new inflow of business? So we solve one problem, but it creates another problem. As you hang out with us, Ellen, I promise you this, you're always going to have problems, but there'll be higher level problems. There'll be better problems to have.
Okay, so go ahead. What I was thinking, the way I'm thinking to approach it, listening to what you guys have said is, yes, I will generate more leads than I can handle, so I will cherry pick them. I'll take the ones that I like best, that I think I'm going to have fun with, and just refer the rest of them out until I get confident enough in the new level of leads that I take on a showing assistant or whatever.
Bingo.
Correct. Okay, so Elizabeth, before you, Elizabeth said, you know, I've got a couple of objections from people that don't want to come to my marketplace because of the water shortage in California. James, his answer to that was, we'll generate so many leads, you're not interested in people that absolutely don't want to live in your marketplace, because that's the prospect we want. We want, our ideal prospect is the person that really, really wants to live in your marketplace, buy or sell in your marketplace, and in a perfect world, they only want to use you. They're predisposed to doing business with you. We want to create so many leads that you spend your time on those. Now, the perfectionist in you wants to work with all the leads and follow up with everybody, but if you got just the people that wanted, absolutely were going to buy or sell in your marketplace and they were open to using you, you would make, you know, so much money, you wouldn't have to worry about the others. You've got to be okay knowing that you're going to go home from work every single day and you're not going to get everything done. You got to be okay with that. Not everything is going to be perfect. Most of what I've produced, as I'm saying here, over the last 20 years has never been perfect. I could have made it better, but it was good enough. It was good enough that it gets the result done that I want. So I hope that helps. Let's move on, and we'll see who's next.
We have a lot of chat questions, and I don't have any more hands raised, so we'll move on to one of our chat questions. This is from Paul. I have sellers that I got on bold leads. Most of them say they are just curious. Some give me a time frame, but when I call or email, they say they're not ready yet. What do I do in this case?
Okay, well, you need to speak to them, first of all, not just go back and forth with email. And if they're a buyer, the question I would ask is, if the perfect home came on the market, are you in a position to act on it? And if the answer is no, well, when would you be in the position to act on it? And if it's not in the near term, well, for me, if it wasn't within a year, they don't even go into my database. You see, we're worrying too much about the prospects that aren't motivated and the prospects that aren't open to doing business with us. We've got to get so many that are, that we're not focusing on them. But that being said, as James McDonald has said several times, if you don't really know the script and the qualifying questions, then good leads appear not to be good leads.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you know, virtually everybody that walks into the shoe store or the car dealership says, no thanks, just looking. That's normal. But the problem is, even the ones that are motivated say, oh, I'm just curious. Somebody who's going to be listing their home in 3 months, when you follow up with them today, they're going to say, no, I was just curious, but in 90 days their home is on the market. So we know they all say just looking, just curious. That's normal. That's why the script was designed, to get them to share or elaborate on their moving plans, so that you can determine the level of motivation. There's a difference between people saying, you know, I'm not really that motivated, and the truth. Okay, most of them, as James has indicated, are going to say, no, I'm not, you're a real estate salesperson, and I'm not really interested. Our job is to cut through that. So are they really not motivated is really the question. Because I can't believe that all of these prospects would respond to want an evaluation, an updated market value on their property, and they're not interested. The very nature of the information we offer is really of only interest to real prospects. And by the way, also, don't, you know, you say on these bold leads, you know, the source of the information isn't really relevant. What is relevant is that the prospect on their own volition is asking for real estate information and giving up their anonymity to get information about real estate. And what you got to ask yourself is, does a normal person that has zero interest in selling their home, does a normal person do that? And now the answer is sometimes, but can I tell you what happens far more often? The reason someone does that is the same reason someone goes into a car dealership. Do some people go into a car dealership with no interest to buy a car? Yes, sometimes. But the majority of the people that go into a car dealership, why? Because there's a level of motivation there. Same thing here.
Okay, so James, here's what I would like to start doing on Thursdays, okay? Not every Thursday, but what I like to do every once in a while on a Thursday is, I think we're going to get some volunteers to provide us the information of a new prospect, a buyer or seller, and I don't really care where they came from, and I'm just going to call them. we're able to do that, right? I can put everybody on hold on the webinar, and I'll just call the prospect. I used to do this all the time in my real estate business. And let's just see what happens. We had a lady at our boot camp in Florida, and one of our members, she said, well, I've been in your program for X amount of months, and all the leads are bad leads. She said, everyone hangs up on me. Not just saying no, they all hang up. I don't know what you're saying, but I said, I'll call your leads. I bet you they're not going to hang up on me. Now, is that to say that I never had anybody hang up on me or be rude? No. And if I start making some of these calls, you'll hear somebody hang up on me maybe. You'll hear somebody be rude, but that's not the norm. Okay, worst case is they say they're not interested, and I either believe them or I don't believe them. When I get off the phone, sometimes I believe them. And based on what they've said, I'm going to call them back again. And the next time I call them, what I find is the prospect either comes closer towards me or they push me further away. So most of what we're talking about here this morning really is a symptom of you got to know the script. You got to be really strong on the phone. You know, are there situations where certain ads in certain mediums produced low quality leads? Yes. So just don't do that anymore. If you find that you know you're just not getting high quality leads from a certain source, whether it be bold leads or anything else, well then I guess that tells you to move on. But let's be sure that that's really the case before you eliminate an entire lead source like bold leads. It'd be a real shame for you to say, well, all the leads from bold leads aren't good, and you believe that and you cancel it, and in reality, we could have made that one of your best lead generators. Let's go back to Andrea. We'll see who's next.
Again, I want to remind you, if you have an audio question, you have a working mic or on the telephone, just click the hand icon and we can address your question aloud. Mac typed in, I'm in a hot market with very low inventory. If I wanted to get buyers, what ad do I run?
Okay, Mac, so here's what you're going to do. I want you to start to market some of the real hot move-up properties in your marketplace. So does Mac have a mic? Can he talk to me?
Let me find out. I'm going to pull up his line. Mac, say hello. And he already typed in nope. He does not have a mic.
Okay. So Mac, type in the area. Where are you from? He's from the Bay Area. Okay. So Bay Area, San Francisco. So Mac, what I want you to do is I want you to do a little bit of research on MLS, and you probably already know the answer, but what are the hottest, give me the names, type in a couple names of some really hot areas in the Bay Area right now, where like you would love to have some listings because you know you get gazillions of ad calls and sign calls on that property. Okay, so type in the name of one of those areas. Okay, he says Dublin. Okay, so that's what you're going to advertise. You're going to advertise super high demand areas. You're going to offer a list of properties in the Dublin area. You're going to use all of the right language to market those properties. So there must be some really important reasons why people want to live in Dublin, and it's got nothing to do with built-in dishwashers, garage door openers, water softeners, new roofs, and all the other nonsense that realtors usually usually they laundry list these physical features of the properties. I want you to talk about all the emotional reasons why people want to live in Dublin, whether it be quiet tree-lined streets, whether it be an executive area, whether there be I don't know, a mountain view or a view over the Pacific Ocean. There's going to be some real reasons why people want to live in Dublin. And I want you to offer a free list of all the homes in Dublin, including pictures. Would this be Facebook ads? Yes, it could be on Facebook. It could be Google. It could be your local paper. You're going to test this message in all these different places. So what are we really doing here? We're offering prospects what they want. Now, because Dublin is a move-up area, not only are you going to get a buyer, Mac, what else are you going to get? Every buyer is going to have what? They're going to have a house to sell. So you're going to get a buyer and you're going to get listings. Now, there's a whole bunch of other areas in the Bay Area that are high demand, just like Dublin, right? So give me the name of another area, high demand area in the Bay Area other than Dublin. Okay, now you can run an ad with that area, and then another, and then another, and then another. And you're not saying you have any of these listings. Okay, it doesn't matter. This is something that all of you can do, whether you have any listings or not. Most of us make the mistake of we've got a couple crummy listings and we become enslaved by the crummy listings that we have, and we fall into this mistake. We mistakenly think that what we ought to be doing is advertising what we have instead of calling out to who we most want to attract. So Mac, why don't you do this? Why don't you create some ads for East Bay, Dublin, for some of these areas, and before you even run them, if you wish, you can show them to James and I, and we'll look at them on the ad clinic on Friday. Or if you want, you can run them, run some of these ads before you submit them, and then we can critique them on Friday. But that is the super hot marketplace. We know there's lots of buyers and hardly any listings. So with this strategy, you're going to advertise homes you don't have. You're not saying you have these listings. You're offering a list of properties, which is totally legit. All of us can do it. In fact, you're all doing it now. Whenever you get an ad call or a sign call and they eliminate the listing, the property they're calling on, you all do this now. You all say, well, what are you looking for? And you go straight to MLS and you tell the buyers about properties that you don't have listed. So all we're doing is skipping a step here, and instead of advertising that one property that you have that may not be in a high demand area, you're going to cherry pick the best listings in the area, and you're going to offer a list of properties, and you're going to get that list of properties off of MLS. How will you do the search? Well, remember, when they visit your website or they call into your recorded message, we're going to ask them not only for their contact information, but to give us a brief description of the type of home they're looking for in Dublin or in East Bay. So we're going to be asking them about the square footage, the number of bedrooms, the style of home, the age of the home, and also for their contact information. Well, once you have the price range, the style of home, the number of bedrooms, the age of the home, etc., you just go to MLS, you type in that criteria, and boom, a list of all the homes in Dublin that match their criteria will pop up, and that's exactly what you'll send out. Hope that helps, Mac. Let's go back to Andrea. We'll take our next question.
We have a couple of hands raised, so we'll go to Alex Malia. Your line is open.
Hey, Craig.
Alex, what's happening at the hub of the world in Newmarket?
It's going well. It's going well. Kind of a hot, humid day today, but it's cloudy. And but all that set aside, I think it's pretty good.
Okay, you're going to be available for June 27th by the airport?
It's the 25th.
Is it? Okay, well,
Yeah.
You know more about my life than I do. Let me just verify. It's a Thursday, right?
According to Ruth, anyways.
Yeah, it's the 25th. I was just testing you.
Yeah.
I was just testing you. Okay, June
I'll
25th.
be there. I'll be
cool.
there. I like coming. I like being on your panel.
Well, it's, we go out for lunch after, and you get to meet some of the other panelists. So we've got 4 or 5 other people will be there as well, and we exchange ideas and such. So what's on your mind this morning?
Craig, as you may well know, Newmarket's become a bit of a lot of a move-up buyer type of area. Newmarket in Aurora and so on and so forth. So the move-up buyer ads, do you think I should be adding prices to those? Like I'm thinking move-up buyer areas, as you would know, would be like Stonehaven, maybe Glenway, Aurora, would be the Aurora Highlands or Hills of St. Andrew and all that stuff. You think I should be adding price ranges to those ads? I want to start running a few of those.
Well, the price ranges help in this situation. If someone's coming up from Toronto, all the names you just mentioned, they don't know the price ranges in those areas.
That's right, yeah.
So a local person in Newmarket and Aurora would know, approximately the price range in Stonehaven or St. Andrews Village. They would know that, right? But if you're saying people are coming up from Toronto, adding the price ranges would be helpful because they don't know these areas by name like you and I do.
Okay. So
ideally, if you're going to use price ranges, probably what you want to do is to attract different types of buyers, you want to run ads in different price ranges.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Gotcha.
so what neighborhood would be in the 5 to 600,000 range? Okay, what neighborhoods would be in the 800 to a million? What would be a million and over? So you're going to run an ad for each of those price ranges to pull in buyers, different types of buyers.
Right. Right. I guess to add to that question, um, the ads. I mean, do you think I would run those in the paper or like in a obviously, what I used to do way back years ago, way before being on your program, is there used to be magazines that used to spread from Toronto, and you'd advertise new market properties in there. People would look at the price and look at the picture of the house, they'd love it, and they'd call you off the ad. But something that spreads into Toronto, I mean, like a Facebook ad, but that would probably give it too broad of a range, maybe. Google, possibly. Where do you think like would be ideal places to run?
I would test it all.
Yeah, test
like
it.
we don't know, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Everything that you mentioned could work well.
Yeah.
And I promise you, of the mediums you mentioned, you'll find one that works better. That's what we want to figure out, is which ones work better. Now, even if you find, for example, that Facebook works better than a certain magazine, even that being said, if the magazine, what you spend on the magazine, you make far more than what you spend, even though that magazine may not work as well as Facebook, you still may want to do it.
Yeah, because of the return on investment. Yep.
Yeah, when I ask our Platinum guys, when I say, well, look, how come a lot of you Platinum members, you use Commissions Inc., you use Bold Leads, you use ZBuyer, why do you use all of these different lead generation companies? They've got a pretty good answer, because they say, well, maybe one of the three works better than the other two, but all three of them make me way more money than what it costs me every month.
Right.
So, Facebook, for example, if it works better than the magazine, or the magazine works better than Facebook, they both might be still worth doing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I guess I need to find a magazine that spreads into Toronto, or maybe.
Well, at least you know the message, though. Here in Toronto, and this is what's happening right now, everywhere in Toronto and the GTA, when you get a listing, the game now is, and I know it's happening a lot in the States right now, is we're going to market the property, but we're not going to look at offers for 5 days or a week or whatever, and then you've got multiple offers and the house sells for way over the asking price. So we've got an inventory shortage. So what you're suggesting, Alex, is that you've got the inventory. Even if that's not true, that's what the ad is saying, is you've got homes in this price range and that price range and this type of home and that type of home. You've got all these different properties, and that's what's going to bring you the buyers. And then, of course, these buyers also have listings, which is the very thing you want right now. You want the buyer, but more importantly, you want the listings because they're in such high demand.
That's right, the move-up buyer. Yeah.
A move-up buyer. So, that's how I started this, right?
Right.
I was advertising way back when. I was advertising a list of Glenway homes, and I didn't have any. Not only did I not have any listings in Glenway, I had no listings.
Right.
But who would? Okay, so in Newmarket, who would move up and buy a home in Glenway? Where would those buyers come from? Sure, some of them come from out of town, but within Newmarket, a lot of those buyers might come from, I don't know, College Manor. They might come from Quaker Hill.
Mm-hmm.
They might come from the London Road area, right? And where do buyers in Stonehaven come from? They probably come from Glenway. So whenever I advertised a free list of homes in Stonehaven Estates, I got a lot of guys in Glenway. So now they're moving up to Stonehaven. I've got their listing in Glenway Estates. Now the person in Quaker Hills is moving up and buying the guy's home in Glenway Estates.
That's right.
So here's the thing. When you start doing this, even if you don't have any inventory, you quickly get inventory.
Right.
Because all of these buyers have houses to sell.
Right. Okay. Yeah, very good. I'm going to try those. One last question about a USP. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So the guaranteed sale program, I've started with that. Now, in speaking with James, I believe it was on Friday at the ad clinic, or not speaking with him, listening to him. In our type of market, just like, as you know, things are selling, in literally hours and sometimes for way over the asking price. It's a hot market, right? He was suggesting that maybe the guaranteed sale program wouldn't be something appropriate. It would be more the 100% of asking price.
The hotter the market is,
yeah,
the less concerned sellers are about a guarantee on their home selling.
Yeah. They're more concerned
Okay,
on.
so if you're in Newmarket right now, if you live in Stonehaven or Glenway, do you need to be concerned about your house not selling?
No.
Right. So you're offering something that really isn't a concern to sellers at this point.
That's right. Yeah. So probably the 100% of asking price, like guaranteeing them the price, would be a little more appropriate. As that's what James suggested to someone.
Well, you could do this. You know, your guarantee could be, I guarantee to get you multiple offers in your home in the first 7 days, or I'll pay you $1,000 cash.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Right? Because if they list at your price, and you're going to use this technique of loading it onto MLS, but no offers for 7 days, you know on day 7 you're going to be able to deliver on that promise.
That's right.
Or what's the worst case? Okay, so they only get one offer, and it's you know, a little less than full asking price, and you have to reduce your commission by $1,000, but you wouldn't have had the listing had you not run the campaign.
Yeah, or even $2,000, and the house ends up selling with one offer, and I still make $16,000 in commission.
You got
it.
So play around. We'll talk more about that when we go to lunch. It's 10 days today. You're right, the 25th.
Yep.
So bring some of your USP ideas, and we'll brainstorm those over lunch.
Very good. Okay, thanks, Craig.
All right, thanks, Alex.
Okay, our next few questions come in the form of chat. And Craig, do we have you a little bit longer? You're going to have to leave soon.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go right now. So I will hand this over to James to finish up.
James, are you ready? Okay.
I'm here.
We have John asking, do you have advice for following up with out-of-state leads? Obviously not setting up an appointment. He says, I've had several, but yet to talk to anyone on the phone. Looking for what to say when I do.
Well, obviously, yes, you do. First of all, you have to talk to them on the phone, that's for sure. When you do, though, this is what I'm going to recommend. What you're trying to discover is when they plan on coming to the marketplace. That's how you, remember, if the purpose of the phone call is to determine timing and motivation for an out-of-state buyer or an out-of-area buyer, their motivation lies in when do you plan on coming here to look at properties? Now, here's why. If they say, well, I have no plans whatsoever to do that, that's going to shape, you know, your perception of their motivation. And maybe you follow that up with, well, if the perfect property were to come available, would you come here to look at that property? Are you at that point yet? No. Okay, well, good. This is what we want to know. Listen, the purpose of the phone call isn't to try to make somebody get on a plane and fly to you. It's to find out their level of motivation. If their level of motivation is such that they say, well, yes, you know, we have a trip planned for the first week of July. Okay, good. Now you know this, first week of July. Now you can send them a snapshot, follow up with them in half the time. When they arrive in July, you're going to have an appointment set to meet them when they arrive. But the answer to your question is this. If they're out of state, you want to find out when do you plan on coming to the marketplace? And that's when you want to book the appointment. In the meantime, you can send them a snapshot of what properties are available on the market, but you've got to figure out when are they coming to the marketplace. And you've also got to realize if they have absolutely no plans whatsoever to come to the marketplace, it speaks to their level of motivation or lack thereof. So remember that. If they say, well, I have no plans to come, the question is, well, if the perfect property were to come available, or you realize that there were perhaps several properties that really piqued your interest, would you plan a trip? Yes. When do you think that might be? If that were to happen this week, next week, I mean, what, you know, if the perfect home were to come available, when do you see yourself making your move? This is what we've got to figure out is how good is this prospect? And with an out-of-state prospect, the litmus test is them coming to your marketplace really speaks to their level of motivation. Great question.
Okay, our next question from Maria. My biggest problem is getting people to agree on the appointment to my office. Do you suggest setting up first appointments at my office?
Yes, and there is no pushback for setting it at your office at all. It totally makes sense. This is maybe more in your head than theirs. Remember, what you've got to do is make sure that you have emphasized cost and obligation as not being a factor. The reason you need to get together at your office is to do a good job for them in determining accurately the properties that would be of interest to them. You've got a form that you fill out on your computer to ensure that you do not miss out on the perfect property or waste their time sending them hundreds of properties that may or may not match what they're looking for. There's no cost, there's no obligation, and you're flexible. Listen, people book appointments to go to offices all the time. The dentist does not come to you, you go to the dentist. You know, if you were going to set up an appointment to meet with an attorney, you would go to the attorney's office. It would never come to your home. And God, I could probably rhyme off a dozen other examples where we as a society are perfectly at peace with going and meeting a professional at their office. So this is probably more in our head than it is in their head. All we have to do is give them a reason why they would want to meet with us and remove the risk of them getting whatever that reason is, that benefit. So you absolutely want to book the appointment at your office for buyers. However, if we're talking about a seller, obviously the only way you can determine the value of their home is by seeing it. In that circumstance, then you'd book the appointment at their home. But that's a different scenario. Good question.
Okay, Daniel has asked, a few weeks ago we showed a postcard that gave statistics, and he wanted to see that postcard again. He's saying, can you review the postcard that highlights the statistics referencing the average agent versus your own? He says he thinks there were 4 or 5 pie charts, so I have that up on the screen now. It should be popping up any second.
All right, let's see this. Not yet. I'm sure it's forthcoming.
I'm going to go ahead and refresh my screen. And hopefully it will be coming up. Nothing yet, right, James? You can't see anything
yep,
yet?
There it is. I see
okay.
it. Yep,
good.
I see it. It's Bill Watson's.
Yes, that's it.
Yes, it's right here. Hopefully that was what you're looking for. Yeah, this is excellent. And you know, again, I would always suggest that when you send out direct mail, what you want to do is you want to do a mix of both less branded and branded. So the less branded you're going to find is a great lead generator, and you'll generate volume of prospects when you do non-branded, just offering an online home evaluation. The purpose of the branded is, although you may generate less prospects, you will generate a far higher quality of prospect. And when you follow up with that prospect and Bill says, you know, hey, it's Bill Watson calling from the Bill Watson team. I'm just calling to let you know I did receive your request for information from my direct mail postcard on my website. And I want to give you a quick courtesy call, let you know I prepared the information and sent it. I hope that's okay. The response is, oh, hey, hi, Bill. Yeah, thanks for sending that. You are following up with a branded lead. And a branded lead, although there may be fewer of them, it's like the fish jump into the boat. So what this is doing is anyone that responds to this, they are far more pre-sold on Bill than on a less branded. But the downside is less volume of prospects. But this is really, really good, and Bill's done a really excellent job of comparing the real estate board average with his. So this is quite phenomenal. 101.4% versus 98.9%. 18 days versus 40 days, right? The likeliness of your home to sell, so rate of expiration. And the buyers in waiting program. It's just, this is phenomenal. I mean, you know what's crazy is really this is the listing presentation. I mean, or at least certainly the statistics and the performance guarantee right here in this direct mail postcard. Does that mean it's the only direct mail you should send? No, but this is really ultra effective. Hope that helps. Make sure you bookmark that one, Andrea, because I'm sure we'll go back and look at that one on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. We have Edgar asking, is there an agenda for the boot camp, such as times, dates, topics? I'm assuming he's talking about on the 26th.
Yeah, yes, there is an agenda, and we'll share that with you very likely this week. We'll send it out to everybody so that you can take a look at that. But you know what? You don't need to bring anything with you at all. I mean, if you want to bring some of your ads or anything that you'd like us to take a look at, you can definitely do that, but we're going to give you everything when you get there, right down to a pen.
So we spoke with Ellen earlier, and she's following up with what we've discussed, and it says, do I send out materials to people I don't choose to work with?
Do I send materials? Well, if you're asking, do you send the information that they've requested, you're obligated to send them exactly what they've requested. So when somebody responds to any ad and visits your website and requests information, 100% of the time they should receive the information. Now, if they've received the information, it means they're happy. They're happy, and you followed up with them. That's, I mean, as far as they're concerned, they got the information they were looking for. You can choose to call them back or not. So, yes, you are absolutely obligated to do that. And it doesn't matter, you know, what they responded to, where they live. None of that matters. We are obligated to send the information that the prospect is looking for.
Okay.
Hope that answers the question.
Carol Hescom has raised her hand and typed in the question, so I'm going to open her mic to see if she wants to ask it aloud. Carol, your line is open.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Carol.
Oh, good. Okay, I think I've answered my own question. I was trying to run an ad, sell your home in 60 days or less, or I will pay you $2,000 cash. And I'm having problems getting the squeeze page done and the landing page, but they're saying it sounds like I'm trying to brand myself with this ad, but they put it on my non-branded site.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. No, it's any USP is branded. All right, because I mean, just by virtue of the language that you've used, I will pay you $2,000. Well, who's I?
Right.
Right. Like, who? What do you mean I? Who's I? So by virtue of just simply reading it, it clearly is branded to somebody. It says I right in it. So it should be branded, and it should go to a branded page.
And the other thing is the landing page they did for me is a bubble, one of those bubble, map with bubbles on it. And it says the same thing, but then it says for your list, fill in your information. I keep asking them, what list am I going to send them? It should be sending them directly to my branded website page, correct?
Correct. Yes, that's exactly right.
It's just
that's exactly right.
I'm thinking.
You know what? Here's something you might want to do, Carol. Is you might want to get your coach on the phone and call Success Website together, just to make sure that they do this. I mean, they just have to do it right one time, and then they never have to address it again. I mean, it's got to be done properly one time, and then it's there forever. So maybe if that means, you have your coach on the line and you call Success Website and get that done. But it's really important that the correct landing page be used in not just this, but in anything that you're doing. The landing page is every bit as important as the ad.
Yeah, see, and that's what I wanted was that page. And I even sent the gal a copy of Craig's page. And anyway, but I'm thinking after listening to you today, I'm thinking I might do the move up one and try and get buyers.
You've really got to look at your marketplace, and you've got to know statistically what is happening in your marketplace with home sales. Almost looking at what Bill had indicated on his postcard here. You need to know days on market. You need to know rate of expiration. You need to know list to sales price ratio and these kinds of things, because we want to make sure that we're using a USP that reflects what would be needed or wanted in the marketplace. So if you're saying 60 days and homes are selling in under 40, well, that's not a good USP. It doesn't address a need. So that's something that you want to look at, and that would be something really good to discuss with your coach as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Our next question comes from Kelly. Do you have written waivers when people do not qualify for your guarantee program?
Well, it depends on what guarantee you're talking about. The guarantee program, we have lots and lots of guarantees. So everybody qualifies for the guarantee program, regardless of what guarantee you're talking about. Everybody qualifies for it if they're interested in doing it. Now, if you said, well, hang on, my trade-up program requires them to trade up and buy one of my listings, and if they don't qualify because they're not buying one of my listings, then they don't qualify for the guarantee program. Not true. They still qualify for the guarantee program. It just means that you're going to guarantee the buyer who's moving up to their home. So it still qualifies. There's going to be a sign rider on their for sale sign that says, move up to this home and I'll buy yours for cash. Your home is part of the trade-up program. It's part of the guaranteed sale program. I'm going to have a sign rider on your home that says, move up to this home and I'll buy yours for cash. So in other words, a buyer can make a firm offer on your home as opposed to one that is conditional on the sale of theirs, because I can swoop in and guarantee the sale of their home. So everybody qualifies for the guaranteed sale program. And as far as the other guarantees, well, every seller qualifies. It's a matter of whether you articulate it in a fashion that compels them to want to take you up on that guarantee. But everybody can take you up on the guarantee if they so wish. Hope that makes sense.
Okay, Steven's typed question. He says, after meeting with the pre-approved buyer, the buyer won't sign the VIP buyer agreement and or cancellation guarantee. He says they wanted to take it home and consult with their family. Followed up 10 days later via email, text, phone, no response. What do you suggest?
I suggest that they're gone. Yes. The whole idea of the cancellation guarantee is to think about it. Yeah, here's what they're telling you. I already have my friend I'm using them. And there's nothing that you can do or say that's going to change that. I'm going to be using them. And that's why, even though you gave me a full 100% cancellation guarantee, no, I'm still not signing, because I know I'm going to definitely use my wife, who's a licensed realtor or whatever. You know, this is the reality, is if you're not going to get them all the time, you know, what you want is 90% of the time you want to be able to procure the listing or procure the buyer. But 10% of the time you're just not going to. Now, if you told me, oh, this happens to me all the time, it's you. But if you tell me there was this time and they wouldn't sign it and they left and now they won't return my phone calls, this time this happened, then don't worry about it. It's the exception, not the rule. Yes, that is going to happen. But if it's the exception, then you're fine. That's okay. Remember this, you would rather find out in 15 minutes that they're not loyal than find out in 5 weeks. You know, you'd rather not think after 5 weeks of sending them properties and calling them and showing them property and thinking that, oh, these guys are money in the bank, and then finding out after all that they're going to use their cousin. That would be a real downer. Instead, you found out in 15 minutes. You found out in 15 minutes. Good. That's what we'd rather. I would suggest go on to the next one. Do not call them anymore. You know, you've assessed that this is the exception. Now we can move on, and we can focus making sure our presentation is excellent for every future buyer that we meet with. And if you tell me, no, this isn't the exception, it happens all the time, it's you, let's work on it. Let's work on what you're saying to articulate the benefit of working exclusively with you and removing the risk by offering that cancellation guarantee. Great question.
Okay, we have a hand raised from Jeff Kim. Your line is now open. Jeff? Okay, I'm going to assume your mic is not working because we cannot hear you. I'll go ahead and read your question aloud. I've had success generating leads from Facebook related to the distress fixer-upper foreclosure. After booking appointments from this lead source, over 50% cancel or want to reschedule. As we discussed, I reiterate no cost or obligation and try to make appointments as soon as possible. Any other suggestions?
Yeah, well, that is definitely number one, is you definitely want to book the appointment as close to the time that you're talking to them as possible. And I really want to, here's what I'd recommend. If you really want to know what you can do to get a better outcome, you should record some of your calls. If you record some of your calls and I can hear what you're saying and your coach can hear what you're saying, I mean, it wouldn't take you recording more than 2 or 3 of these follow-up calls when you're booking the appointments. I would be able to listen to what you're saying and explain to you what is happening that is causing them to do this. And I'll tell you, if it isn't cost and obligation, okay, so you specifically say that you're definitely making sure to very clearly articulate that there is no cost or obligation attached to this appointment. If you are truly doing that and still this is happening, then what likely is the culprit is the prospect doesn't understand the benefit of meeting with you. So it's one thing to say this is free, but if the prospect's thinking, what is free? I don't get what the benefit is. I'm meeting with you because you want to meet with me. I don't get it. Why is it such a benefit to me to get in my car, drive to you, and meet you? Why? If they can't articulate that, they're probably going to cancel, they're going to postpone, they're going to no-show. That is what's going to happen. It doesn't matter that it's free. The thing that is free, they don't want because they don't know what it is. That's my hunch. That's my guess. I've been doing this a long, long time. I've seen this a million times. So without being able to analyze what you're doing, it's an educated guess. So I don't know if that's something that you can do. Well, I know it is something that you could do. But when you're making a couple of these follow-up calls, record them. There's an app that you can get on your phone, record a call. You just tap the app, dial the number, and it'll record the call. I mean, you delete it right after you're finished. You're not doing anything wrong. But, I mean, just for your own purposes, you can listen back and, you know, maybe get your coach on the phone or me, and I'd be more than happy to listen to a couple of your calls. I can hear what you're saying when you're making the offer, and we can maybe adjust a few things that aren't getting the point across to the prospect. Like, for example, if they don't understand that what you're proposing is that every day they're going to receive properties in their email inbox as they come on the market, what they often think is the reason they're coming to meet with you is to get a list. And if that's what they think, they're not going to show up because they've already been sent a list. And that list hasn't been very good. They're properties that they've probably already seen before. Right? Most of the properties you're sending them, they've already seen before because they're properties that have already been on the market. So now they're looking at that list and they're going, oh yeah, I've seen all these properties. I'm good. They don't get it. If they don't get it, then yes, you're fighting an uphill battle. All right, so that's my suggestion for that. Okay, Andrea, let's take one more for this morning and then we'll get on with our week here.
Okay, we have Hardy. I called a prospect, and when I asked him for an appointment, he said, just send me the list and I will call you. How will I handle a situation like this?
Is it the exception or the rule? All right, so I'll have to start off by saying that. Every time I follow up with prospects, they always say, just send the list. Every single time, it's you. I had this guy this one time, and he said, just send me the list. Don't worry about it. It's the exception. Yeah, okay, that happened. That's okay. What we have to establish is something happening over and over and over again? Because if it is, then it's you. But if something happens once in a while, you're like, hey, why did that happen? It's because this person is a non-prospect, and that's the purpose of the script. So you've got to bear that in mind. Why would they meet with you? If you're asking that question, it tells me that you don't understand the benefit of meeting with you. So let me end today's webinar by making sure that everybody understands this very clearly, okay? Here's the way that I articulate this to brand new realtors, well, brand new to the Craig Proctor system. Not new realtors, but new to the Craig Proctor system. Here's the question. Do you agree that if you were going to help a buyer find the perfect property for them, would you do a better job if you were to meet with the buyer face-to-face up front? Or would you do a better job if you never met with the buyer face-to-face up front? Which would get a better outcome in helping the buyer find their dream home? Everybody unanimously says meeting with them face-to-face up front, I would be able to do a way better job. Okay, so we all agree that you would do a better job. Now here's the question, why? Why would you do a better job? Why would it be better? Well, because I would much more accurately be able to determine exactly what they're looking for. I'd have as deep an understanding as they do as to what they're looking for, so that I could only send them the perfect properties knowing what they're looking for immediately upon coming on the market. And I wouldn't waste their time with properties that I know they're not interested in. Well, yeah, that's why. Say it. So say that to the prospect then. If you know the benefit of meeting with them and you agree that it would be highly beneficial, they need to understand that as well as you do. And if they don't expect them to show up. For what? Right? Why? They don't need to show up for something that they don't understand or don't see a benefit in. We'll obviously work on this on Thursday, as we always do. I mean, a lot of this has to it pertains to lead conversion, and that's certainly what we do on Thursdays on our next webinar here. So I do strongly encourage you to participate. And why don't you do this? Volunteer to do a role play with us, and we'll role play this. If you like, you can be the prospect, and I'll demonstrate exactly how that works and how you're going to articulate this so that the prospect absolutely gets it. They absolutely understand the benefit to them. And if they understand the benefit to them and they understand that this is free and no obligation, it will be the exception to the rule, the prospect that doesn't want the appointment. Like that's fine. We want that. We don't want everybody. We want the good ones. All right, that's a good way to wrap it up here today, Andrea. Really appreciate your help as always, Andrea. Look forward to the rest of the webinars this week. Don't forget to upload any ads that you'd like us to look at for Friday, and we will happily do that. And Thursday, of course, is our role-playing session as well.
Okay, thank you, James. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a wonderful afternoon. Please check the schedule for your upcoming webinars this week.